So let's start with the questions, and some of this will overlap with what Paul also asked. Let me start with two very brief comments. One, Wendy Belcher points out the website of the ERC project Islam in the Horn of Africa, where you find a lot of more information. And there's another comment by Joshua Maglar saying, we at Himmel have recently begun to put some of our Ethiopian Islamic manuscripts online, most of which were cataloged by Dr. Gori, with help from our cataloging intern, Mahmoud Mohammed. So these are just two comments. Then the first question I want to read is from Aaron Pratt. I'm curious to know about the circulation of paper to Ethiopia. It seems that most of these are on paper, which is quite distinct from the Christian tradition. Has work been done on watermarks? Would this have been seen as an important distinction between Christian and Islamic book cults? I don't know who wants to take the question.
Yes, I might say a few words. Yes, of course, there are watermark papers in Ethiopia, and they were imported papers, so it seems that there is a frame for comparison between the Christian tradition and the production, the Islamic production, because as you could see from, you could hear from Alessandro, we don't have manuscripts earlier than the 16th century. But starting from this point, it is very, very clear that Christian wrote on parchment, so used parchment to produce their book, while the Islamic communities in Ethiopia used papers. There are some exceptions on both sides, but roughly this is the tendency. Paper was, I don't know to what extent, so you want precision, but there are watermark paper, which handmade watermark papers and industrial watermark papers, and I came across a very interesting example of watermark papers, industrial one, which were in fact ordered by traders based in Bombay, and sold in the area Aden and Ethiopia, and used in Ethiopia for the purpose of the administration. And they are very, very specific. So they have enormous watermarks, unusual, so very, very easy to identify. And so this is help to trace the role of Indian people in Harar. So yes, so I could talk during hours.
Yeah, thank you, Anne. That was fabulous. Yeah. I wanted to ask a question that that Paul raised towards the end, and I think it could go all to the panelists, but Alessandro might have the most to say about it, given his ERC project. But that is, has there been any reflection on these Arabic Islamic manuscripts from Ethiopia that are outside of Ethiopia, the practice of how they left, on the potential colonial aspects, on traveler aspects, but we're dealing with a fairly small number of manuscripts, but quite a few are out of the country. So I just was curious, yeah, has there been any broader reflection? Have you done any reflection on this? So yeah, I think maybe to Alessandro, but anybody could jump in.
Yeah, well, it's if we take also the Christian manuscript tradition, of course, you have the same phenomenon. In with regard to the Islamic manuscripts, I must say that I would say most of the cases, I would say all the cases that we came across, you are always able to trace back the story behind the collection. So it's normally related to a travel, an explorer who went. In Italy, you have, for example, I can quote the case. It's possibly an emblematic case. He was an engineer from Pavia in northern Italy. He went to Ethiopia. He settled in Harar. He started working there. He has been working there for some years. He collected manuscript. Then he went back to Italy and he simply donated as a kind of testament to the communal library. So in Pavia, a small city in northern Italy, you have a collection of Islamic manuscripts from Harar, and I think it's the same for most of these collection outside Ethiopia can be traced back to the activity of mostly there were travelers, explorers. You have probably a very also very telling, a very emblematic case in the activities of Enrico Cerulli, which is also known for his engagement in Christian Ethiopian studies. So he collected a lot while working in Ethiopia, also in the colonial administration. And I would say, comparative, if you compare to the bulk of manuscripts that Christian manuscripts that he collected in Ethiopia and then took to the Vatican Library, you have a small amount of Islamic manuscripts too. So you have in Berlin, you have some manuscripts which were collected by Hans Schlobis. He was a kind of German diplomat, active in Addis Ababa, and he collected also Islamic manuscripts, and they are now in Berlin. So it's relatively easy to trace back. And yeah, I don't think it's much more different from what you would from the picture that you would get while studying the same phenomenon with the Christian Ethiopian manuscripts.
Thank you. Very interesting. I'll hand it over to Sabine, I think, for the next question. Thank you, also.
Well, one question comes from Valentina Sagaria Rossi about asking about the common features between the two manuscript traditions in Yemen and Ethiopia. And the question was, I think, posed before Anna gave her paper. But my question is really, or what is striking, that everything we see in parallel to Yemen is restricted to the Shafi Ashari tradition, and there is I haven't seen anything that would point to any influence of from Zaidi Yemen. So my question is this a correct impression, or was there any influence of Zaidi thought of transfer of Zaidi manuscripts into Ethiopia, or was this not the case? And if this was not the case, why? I mean, because in Yemen, you see at some stage, you see that there is a certain mingling of the two traditions, at least in the fluidity of the manuscripts, of course, not in the thinking. I mean, that's a different story, but the manuscripts definitely went in both directions. I don't know who wants to answer this question. Alessandro, you mentioned, I mean, you were talking about the Ashari.
From my experience, I would confirm that there is no trace of clear influence of Zionism. There is an always recurring topic, which is, generally speaking, whether it is possible to trace some Shia, generally speaking, Shia influence in Ethiopian and Islam of the whole of Africa. But this is another, I would say, another story. We did not come across Zaidi texts, and I think the answer is that people in Ethiopia, learned people in Ethiopia, were going to Yemen, or were in touch with Yemen through the agency of their own groups. And so Shafi'i scholars were looking in Yemen for Shafi'i education. Hanafi too, and this is a point which is not clear, but I think there was a tight connection also among Ethiopian and Yemeni Ahnaf. Historically seen, it's also a huge problem, because we know that originally the strongest madhab in Ethiopian Islam was the Hanafi, not the Shafi'i. And so if we go back to the, let's say, 11th, 12th century historical sources, Mamluk historiography points to the fact that Ahnaf were the majority, and so it must be surmised that these people were learning also, or had connection to the Ahnaf in Yemen. Zabid, perhaps. And then, of course, the Shafi'i madhab became stronger and stronger, and the connection was too with the Shafi'i in Yemen. I would say once again Zabid, Ta'iz, but also, and this is something that we have to look closer at, with Hadramaut. So Tarim, for example, Aden. So it seems that people were moving a lot across the, let's say, the lines of their own already existing group. And so on the top of that, you have let's say, what you would call the mystical or Sufi orders. So Qadiri were looking for other Qadiri in example in Hadramaut or in Aden. So there was no that much room for overlapping and going to look for other groups and traditions. This is my impression. And so that, but we don't, of course, we don't have a clear, let's say, an ultimate answer.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we have to close at this stage, although there are still a couple of questions, and this is a very fascinating topic. And we are also at the end of this series of 4 webinars on Ethiopian studies. And thanks again to all my co-conveners and to all the speakers we had over the course of the year. It has been really fantastic. I learned a lot, and I think we all learned a lot. We don't have any specific plans as to how continue. What we kind of loosely agreed among ourselves that we are planning to have in next spring another webinar where we want to see where Ethiopian studies developed in the meantime. But please note that the website is up and you can see the address here. All the videos for the past events have been there. We will also post the video of this one, including Hassan's, which will be recorded separately, on the website. And if you have any ideas what we could also put on our website, or how we could develop this further, or if you want to join with us and collaborate, all of us are very open to any of your suggestions. So please stay in contact and stay tuned to the website and also to the event of next spring, for which we also very much look forward. So thank you very much again, especially to the panelists and the speakers of today and all those who were present. Thank you very much. Bye.